So when I was in middle school, I would watch Disney Channel a lot. My sisters and I, we used to love shows like Good Luck Charlie, Ant Farm, Phineas and Ferb. We would watch them all the time. But of those Disney Channel shows that aired during the post Hannah Montana Silver Age of Disney Channel, I guess, my favorite was Dog with a Blog. Or at least it was back when it was on. So, today I will be revisiting a couple of episodes to see if it still holds up. It probably won't, but here we go. Now, right off the bat, we get introduced to two of the main characters.
Tyler James, the easygoing dumb player slash generic teenager who kind of looks like if TikTok was a person, and his stepsister, Avery Jennings, a smart yet uptight brat who always wears ties for some reason.
So about a year before the events of the series, Avery's mom married Tyler's dad and they all moved in together.
And Tyler and Avery haven't really been getting along, and they both want the family room next Tuesday. So they are fighting over who gets it.
Look, my meeting is happening. It's the first time I'll get to have friends over since my mom married your dad and ruined my life.
Your life is ruined? Since you moved in, there are sign-up sheets everywhere. There's a sign-up sheet in the bathroom. Who can time that?
I would be frustrated too, but they're being petty. They could just ask their parents who gets the family room, or they could both get it. They have a huge family room. They live in a mansion. Oh, by the way.
This is Avery's mom, the uptight Ellen, and Tyler's dad, the laid-back Bennett.
I know you said be patient and eventually we'd come together as a real family, but those two will not stop going at it. Enough is enough. I'm gonna go in there and set them straight. They need to know that they can...
Intervening at this point would not be a good idea. Siblings must develop their own tools for conflict resolution. It's all here in the Foremost Guide to Parenting, written by a man referred to as the brightest mind in child psychology.
So anyway, Bennett has a plan that will hopefully bring the family closer together.
Kids, I have a surprise for you. His name is Stan. He's a rescue from the shelter.
Hey, look, it's me. I'm the dog. There's the sugar.
And then this happens.
I guess a dog could be kind of fun. Fetch.
Yeah, it's cute until she chases a car.
Okay then. Moving on.
And that's the story of how the kids found out I could.
I forgot how bad the CGI is for his mouth movements. I mean, do they get the animator from off the street? Hey, I'm the showrunner for a new sitcom about a talking dog. Do you want to animate the dog's mouth movements? I don't really have a lot of experience. You're hired. So since Ellen is more of a cat person, she and Stan hate each other and they have some kind of weird feud.
Why are you sitting in my chair? Where's my sandwich? There was a turkey sandwich right here on this plate, and now it's gone. You ate it, didn't you? You sandwich-eating, slipper-stealing, dirty, rotten... What? No, what?
So Avery came into the room to feed Stan.
I've had nothing to eat since that turkey sandwich I had yesterday, or a few minutes ago. I have no concept of time.
And yet you're smart enough to write and operate a blog? I swear, this dog is just dumb when it's convenient. If he had no concept of time, how would he know what minutes and days are? As a matter of fact, how would he know what time even is? So Avery vents while filling Stan's bowl, but while she is doing that, Stan cannot stop thinking about how hungry he is. And he wants to ask for the food, but he can't do that because that would be revealing his secret, and that's something he wants to avoid given what happened to at least one of his previous owners.
Don't take me away! I'm not crazy! My dog can really talk! Dog, say something. Oh, tell him that joke you told me!
Sorry, I had a mouthful of peanut butter.
If he sees his owner being carried away by people who think he's crazy, why wouldn't he try to get a word in or at least bark? Having peanut butter in your mouth is a dumb excuse not to do that. And why was he sitting on the stairs the whole time? Why didn't he come to the door once he was done with this peanut butter? Was he actively trying to set this poor guy up for the fall? And what happened to Stan once he was left there all alone? This got dark very fast.
Somehow I always end up back at the shelter.
Somehow? Always? So this has happened multiple times before? And no one ever told Bennett about this at the shelter? Or did they tell Bennett and he just didn't tell them? Either way, that seems like an important piece of information, but it's never brought up again. Okay, now where were we?
Okay, Avery, I worked out a compromise for tonight. I get to have my cheerleaders over, and you get to hear what fun sounds like from behind your closed bedroom door.
So anyway, Avery once again drones on about the house rules, but she does this while holding Stan's bowl, so Stan finally snaps.
Give me this stinking food! I'm drooling a pool over here!
So now Tyler and Avery know Stan's secrets sooner than Stan hoped.
I wasn't gonna tell you yet, because it always messes things up.
I'm gonna find out what makes you talk, and I'm gonna become rich.
I'm gonna mumble really quietly, and then I'm gonna shout with no warning. Also, who sent Stan them to a lab? Either way, Tyler and Avery promised to keep Stan's secret because, as Avery puts it,
Dad would write a book about it. Mom would freak. And Dad would write a book about Mom freaking.
so now Stan's secret is being kept for 3 reasons. One that Stan thinks of once and never says out loud. One that he does say out loud and gets brought up way more than you might think. And one that Avery makes up on the spot. But then Avery's little sister Chloe walks into the room and overhears Stan talking. And when Avery frantically tries to cover it up, this happens.
Really? You're buying that?
Stan can talk! Stan can talk! Stan can talk!
So Chloe almost exposes Stan's secret to her parents, but they don't believe her, so Stan is in the clear.
Chloe, it is not okay to lie. Now go to your room. There's a pony waiting for you. Now she'll associate lying with disappointment.
Honey, I love you. I respect you. I ask you this only as a supportive wife. Did you get your PhD online?
Okay, I guess that was kind of funny.
So Stan's in the clear now, and Tyler, Avery, and Stan go to Avery's room.
But when Stan leaves the room to pee, this happens.
Couldn't bear to lose him, huh? I'll tell you what. Either I get the family room tonight for my cheerleaders, or I tell Dad Stan can talk and Chloe's not a wacko.
You wouldn't tell Dad Stan can talk.
Are you willing to take that chance?
Go ahead. Tell Dad Stan can talk. I don't care.
Yeah, and even if Tyler did tell his dad that Stan can talk, how would that conversation even go? Hey Dad, I need to tell you something. Oh hey, what's up? Well, Stan really can talk and Chloe wasn't lying. Thanks, I needed that. Wait, are you serious? Anyway, so Stan overhears Tyler and Avery fighting.
He's just a stupid dog.
You can't fool me. You love Stan.
I'm not trying to fool you. This isn't like when I convinced you Planet of the Apes was based on a true story.
And then, right when Tyler's about to rat Stan out, he decides, okay, fine, I won't rat him out. And Avery's like, I knew that's what you would say. I really do love Stan. But by then, Stan had already run away because he heard the whole thing and got upset. And as he wanders the dark desert highway with the cool wind in his hair, okay, not really desert highway, more like the city streets, he eventually gets lost and ends up back at the shelter. So Chloe tells her siblings that Stan ran away, and they immediately shift the blame on one another. And I have to say, when I watched this in middle school, I always thought of Avery as the voice of reason in the family. But watching it back, I realized she really isn't that mature. So far, she spent most of the episode bickering over problems that could have been solved in like 5 minutes.
You've done nothing to act like a brother to me. And now you've driven away the one thing that I cared about most.
What do you mean, the one thing you care about? It's only been 2 days. And Tyler's not the only one at fault here. He definitely did say Stan was dumb, but Avery egged him on and said that she didn't care what happened to Stan. Then again, I don't think either of them thought Stan would even hear them or react like that. So I guess you could say that this was actually Stan's fault.
Tyler then comforts Avery, and they both agree to try and find Stan.
So they decide to go to the shelter to see if he is there. And he is. However, the guy at the shelter refuses to release him right away.
I wish I could help you, but sorry.
Some guy named Glenn, don't really know him, moving on.
Then why'd you bother freezing the screen to introduce him? To pad the runtime? As a matter of fact, usually when he freezes the screen, he does it to say something that's already going to be obvious pretty soon. We then find out that, well, you just have to see this for yourself.
I can't release your dog until an adult pays for the $500 in damages he caused.
Adopt a poodle? Don't worry, ladies. I'm busting you out of here. Wait, come back! I'm adopting you!
So, a dog who claims to have no concept of time, and I can't even believe that's a sentence, not only knew how to use a blowtorch, but also knew where to find one. What is this show?
So, while Glenn is helping someone out, Tyler and Avery sneak into the back to retrieve Stan themselves. At first, Stan's pretty upset, and Avery has a hard time winning him over. But then she pulls out a treat and he instantly forgives her. And then this happens.
Let's go home! By the way, you know how to get back, right?
Home? My student tolerance club? I never canceled.
I never canceled my cheerleaders.
So anyway, Tyler calls off his meeting and proceeds with his plan to bust Stan out.
We're gonna have to break some more rules. Are you with us?
Let's do it!
Well, that was an odd juxtaposition.
But anyway, Tyler's plan actually involves Stan calling the shelter so that he can distract Glenn by pretending to be his boss. While Glenn is distracted, Tyler and Avery let all of the dogs out by pressing a button on his desk. Once all the cages are unlocked, Glenn tries to stop them, and this happens.
Who's gonna stop us? A man who smells like bacon?
The show was so dumb. Oh, by the way, watch Glenn's shirt during this scene. Okay.
So Avery sprays him with the bacon flavor spray, and in the next shot, it's barely visible. But when the dogs are all licking him, he's completely doused in grease.
But either way, Stan is free now. Yay! But Tyler and Avery are not. Oh no.
Once they're home, Bennett chews them out, and he and Ellen consider getting rid of Stan. But then Tyler decides to take responsibility.
This whole thing was my fault.
You're sticking up for me.
Hey, it's about time I started acting like a brother.
Thanks.
Well, I guess that was sweet. So then they all hug it out, and we cut to Stan finishing up his blog.
And we all forgave each other for everything. Because that's what you do in your family. So if there are any other pets out there who are reading this blog...
Wait, what? How would they read this blog? Although there are several other dogs in the show, I think Stan was the only one that could actually talk and work a computer.
So if there are any other pets out there who are reading this blog, I hope that your family loves you as much as my new family loves me.
I guess that was sweet. But I have a lot of questions about this computer screen. If this is his first blog post, how does he already have videos, archives, and 3 comments? And why is he adding the picture after the article is already posted? Maybe those comments are asking why there are no pictures.
So once he posts, he decides to look up pictures of poodles, and then this happens.
Hot poodles? Bennett, we are not getting another dog!
So she has no questions about why her husband was searching not just poodles, but hot poodles? And that's more or less how the episode ends. So there was one more episode that I wanted to revisit, and for that reason I'll try and keep it quick. The episode is titled The Kids Find Out Stan Blogs, and it is the second season finale.
So as usual, the episode begins with Stan finishing up his next blog post. This time, he's blogging about Ellen's many failed attempts to overcome her fear of doing cartwheels. But in doing so, he misses all of his naps and ends up falling asleep at his keyboard. The next morning, the kids find out about his blog and they, well, mostly Avery, do not like what they see.
He's been writing about everything that's happened in our family for the last 2 years.
Stan, you've written about some really embarrassing things here. The time I made a fool of myself over Wes?
The time I made a fool of myself over Nikki?
The other time I made a fool? Wow, it is a miracle either of us ever dated.
Anyway, after that, we find out that Bennett recently finished his next book, and he is presenting it to his agent, Barry. But he also finds Barry to be kind of annoying. So we find out that Stan put his blog on a flash drive because he wants to publish a book based on his blog. And Avery's against that because, as she puts it,
What about Mom and Dad? If they read this, they'll see that there's things on there only you could know. And other things that seemed weird at the time that they'll piece together and realize that you really talk.
which is completely insane because there are probably so many other conclusions that her parents would come to before deciding that Stan is a talking dog. Because they probably don't believe in talking dogs, let alone read Stan's blog anyway. But either way, imagine Avery's shock when she finds out that the flash drive Stan used also apparently had Bennett's book on it. And Barry said he liked the book, so the kids, mostly Avery, are freaking out because they think Barry read Stan's blog. So they call Barry to upset him and make him drop Bennett as his agent. But then we find out that he probably didn't read Stan's blog, and they got Bennett fired for nothing. And then this happens.
This will be my last blog. In order to save Bennett's career in this family that I love so much, I'm gonna go tell his editor the truth about what happened and give up the secret that I'm a talking dog.
This is the reason why I wanted to review this episode specifically. In this episode, Stan is revealing on his blog that he's a talking dog, and it's supposed to be a very serious scene. But imagine if you were actually reading a blog and the author revealed that they were a talking dog. You would probably assume they're either A, joking, or B, they're on something. So just, what? Either way, Stan goes down to Barry's office. Not really sure how he knew where to go or how he got in, but okay. Stan tries to tell him a secret, but then the kids show up too to try and talk him out of it. But Barry has bandages over his eyes, so he can't actually see them anyway. Long story short, they manage to get Bennett's job back and keep Stan's secret, and they're all like, yay! And that's more or less how the episode ends. You know, it amazes me how different Disney Channel is from Disney's movies. With the movies, they always look for the best actors, special effects artists, and screenwriters they can find. But with Disney Channel, the writing is dumb, the acting is over the top, always overacted but never underacted, and half the crew might as well have just been random acquaintances of the producers. But it's usually kid appropriate either way, so here we are.
Huh, smells like rubber, tastes like rubber. Wow, it squeaks! I did not see that coming!
When I watched the show when it was on, I took all of the conflict on the show seriously, and there was kind of a sense of suspense to see them try and keep Stan's secret. But now I don't really take any of this conflict seriously, and I barely feel any empathy towards the characters. At least in the first episode, all the characters did was bicker and most of the conflict was pretty trivial. And you can't really say that that's just because it's a kid show, because in other kid shows, trivial conflict is portrayed as trivial. But in this show, trivial conflict is blown way out of proportion. Overall, I think this show is somewhere between bad and okay. I mean, it is pretty dumb, but there's just something about it where I can easily say it's bad, but I don't want to say that it's terrible. Maybe it's the fact that the ridiculous feels pretty intentional given the show's clear target audience.
Hey guys. Perfect.
Or maybe it's the fact that some parts are genuinely amusing and the show does have a pretty decent message. Overall, I would give Dog with a Blog a 5 out of 10. Before the late 90s, early 2000s, Disney Channel actually had a pretty diverse range of shows like So Weird, which was kind of like the X-Files for tweens, and Adventures in Wonderland, which was a live-action musical fantasy show for younger kids. Pretty much what you might expect from Disney. Now, from what I can tell, these shows were usually a pretty big deal when they were on, but since Disney wasn't really known for original television back then, these shows ended up lost in the noise as soon as they ended. Though one notable exception was the All New Mickey Mouse Club, which is known for giving some celebrities their start, including Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, and Nikki DeLoach. Around the late 90s, early 2000s is when Disney Channel was starting to follow a similar formula for their shows. Make it follow a kid or family just living life. And a lot of the time, that was it. Disney would never release a theatrical movie with that kind of setup, at least not a very good or successful one. But the setup was perfect for a show that kids would probably end up watching in their own time. Not to mention, these shows were kind of like white flour. They take something that is technically natural, and then they bleach it to try and make it look pretty. At the time of the show airing, Disney Channel had pretty much developed their template for all their shows, and that template started developing sometime around the airing of Lizzie McGuire and Even Stevens. Dog with a Blog was no exception, though by including a talking dog, it added a supernatural element to it, which is rare for post-Phil of the Future Disney Channel. And I think the reason why it appealed to me so much was the fact that each person brought something different and you never knew what kind of wacky shenanigans they would get into. Or maybe it was just the talking dog. It definitely didn't seem to be the most popular Disney Channel show when it was on, or maybe it was, and I was just one of a few people who actually talked about it. Also, as far as I can tell, this was Disney Channel's first and only attempt at making a live-action TV show featuring a talking animal as their main character. And I think there's a few reasons for that. For one, talking animals tend to work better in animation than live action, because live action is generally expected to have a more realistic look. With cartoons, on the other hand, a lack of realism and logic is not only easier to get away with, but also encouraged. And sometimes even expected. So if something cartoonish is in a live-action movie, it ends up looking ridiculous. Secondly, Stan being a talking dog didn't have a profound impact on the plot. Phineas and Ferb and Wizards of Waverly Place all took advantage of their premise, and every episode brought a new and exciting adventure. Mostly for kids, but still. But with Dog with a Blog, Stan just happened to be a talking dog, and the only time it actually impacted the plot was during season finales. For most of the show, he probably could have been a squatter, and it wouldn't have changed much. Well, that's all I have to say for now. Be sure to like and or comment below, and if you want to see more movie reviews, hit subscribe. I will be posting new videos on the first Friday of every month. So until then, have a great weekend.